wow, your selection process not very good, huh? The way they've been working in Parliament, I think quite a lot of them are very weak. The thing that really gets to me is when the PAP keeps launching its master plan. Ayo, I can die.
What about your thoughts on PP and SDA?
I'm afraid I don't think of them at all.
Today, we're joined by one of Singapore's sharpest voices, a veteran journalist, an educator, and an unapologetic truth teller. From the news desk to the blogosphere, she's been watching Singapore for over 30 years and she's been calling it like she sees it. Please welcome to the show, Bertha Henson!
Hey!
Welcome to the show.
Oh yeah, she said don't shout. If not, she'll scold us.
So sorry, welcome to the show. Sorry.
Yeah.
So sorry.
I mean, thank you for that very, very lovely introduction. I don't this truth teller business. I mean, come on.
You are a truth teller.
I don't know.
Does the POFMA office consider you a truth teller?
Okay, fine. And the POFMA office probably considers me a truth
Yeah,
teller.
there we go.
I haven't got any POFMA.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's what definition we're going with.
Pat myself on the back.
A disclaimer before we begin, this episode is shot on the 24th of April. Today is Thursday. By the time you see this, 1 week has passed. Just in case, because we're going to comment on the election that's ongoing. So the information might be outdated by the time you see it.
Okay, so the hot of the heels of nomination day.
Yeah.
Let's get right into it. Prime Minister said earlier this year that there's no guarantee that the PAP is going to win this year's GE. And do you really think this is a sort of a wake-up call? Some sort of narrative setting?
Crazy. That's something he said all the time. Every Prime Minister says the same thing. I mean, only if there's a by-election effect, then they didn't get all the seats or whatever, then you'll say, oh, maybe I won't be government. I wouldn't think anything of this don't win-lose situation, okay?
But looking at the sheer number of opposition that's fielding this election, right, they could technically form coalition and have the majority. Do you think that that's a possible scenario?
Okay, I counted. So you see 97 seats, right? So if you take a look at Workers' Party, SDP and PSP, together it'll be 50 seats. Even so, I don't think they will get together in any way. They're very different in terms of ideology.
Right.
You know, so I don't see any kind of coalition. And we only talk about coalition when you're in government.
Yeah.
After you've won the seats and then you figure that out.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
that's a bit far in the future.
Right.
Yeah. So it's basically who is going to beat the two-third mark first.
So having mentioned that, about this guarantee stuff, right? Having said that there's no guarantee they're going to win, the PAP still has fielded more than 30 new faces this time round. And they've retired a bunch of very experienced ministers have announced their retirements. So how do we reconcile this?
I don't think there's anything to reconcile. I mean, essentially, they let go 5 ministers, right? Then a lot of young people. I think for me, the bigger point is them retiring the first term, one term MPs. Oh my God, there are 5 or 6. In the past, maybe 1.
Yep.
Yeah.
That to me was quite a significant move. It raises a few questions, right? Like, wow, your selection process, GE 2020, not very good, huh? That would be one. And secondly, there must have been some standards that the Prime Minister has set. If I look at the way they've been working in Parliament, I think quite a lot of them are very weak on the parliamentary front. And now we have the technology to be able to put up the numbers.
Yeah.
I'm sure they have the numbers. And so I'm not surprised by most of them that they were not picked.
One very obvious counter example to that is actually Louis Ng, who stepped down, right?
Oh, he's a 2-term MP.
Yeah, and he's also the most active MP in Parliament.
He released his own scorecard actually. Yeah, it was quite impressive. Yeah.
So is Wu Ming.
yeah.
Wu Ming, I like both of them. So they're not on. I have no idea. They will tell me after election. So maybe I will know later what is the story behind it.
You don't buy the story that Louis put out. He said that he wanted to do it because he's been missing like his daughters growing up.
Could be. I suppose so.
There's some part of the truth, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
I guess.
Yeah, so, personal reasons are always there.
Yeah, it's just I guess we don't know how much of it was the MP stepping down and how much were they told to step down.
No
essentially.
I would agree with Shan that basically they must have tried to
Okay.
get him to stay because his standing is so good.
Yeah.
Whether parliamentary or in the constituency, his standing is fantastic.
He's so well loved by his residents. I think I saw a lot of outpouring of very sadness that he's
Even
leaving.
from non-resident, everyone was like
Yes,
very
yes,
saddened
yes.
by it.
I think in the 2020 elections, the circumstance was a bit different because we were going post-COVID and the country was a bit more... We're in a very romantic phase of nation building again, That song where you go stand up for Singapore, we listen to it now, it's like, it's an okay song. But during COVID, when you listen to stand up for Singapore, you're like, banger,
Wrong,
And I feel like...
wrong. I don't think so.
You disagree?
I disagree. disagree. I think the critical time is now. It's this year. Not those years. you
Yeah.
know. I mean, those years, come on lah. Got no rally, no nothing. You want to whip up any kind of enthusiasm also
Yeah.
quite hard lah. Oi.
Yeah.
And then, but now, because you have a new PM, you have, as you said, those retirees all going out, new people coming in. So I think there is some momentum for a very good fresh start.
I agree.
So the thing is, I need to be energized with a vision. I want to hear. I think people are all waiting to hear. Give me something new, then we can start again. Really start with a new PM in charge.
Actually, when you say something new, perhaps because we have a one-party system for so long, what is something new?
Yeah, you see, that's also the hard part. We are also conditioned to think in a certain way.
Yeah.
A bit off, it's like, oh, don't know can or not, huh?
Yeah, a
You
bit
know?
uncomfortable.
So, yeah, you feel a bit uncomfortable, right? But give you one example.
Yeah.
The media was standing behind the barricades at the nomination center yesterday. Why are you doing that? Because they told you to? Also.
Oh.
Of course lah. I mean, of course, newsmakers will tell you, you stand there, you stand here, you stand wherever, and you have to.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like try first lah, right? Until
I mean, I can't be bothered. Anyway, good thing I'm not media, but even if I were, I just go walk around every other place, and so you must be able to,
So media today is
corner.
too compliant, is it, in terms of
I
like
don't
too
think they know
law-abiding?
what they can do and what they can't do.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. My take is that maybe the ones that are a little bit braver end up going out on their own. They end up being their own creators rather than join a media company.
Why?
I feel like because if they're brave enough, they feel like they have an opinion that's strong enough. It's so easy now. The barrier to entry is so low. You can just start a TikTok account. You can just start an Instagram account.
Okay lah, you call
do
that
so.
journalism
Maybe not
It can be.
journalism
You
per
don't need to
se.
own a satellite to be
Citizen
a journalist.
Yeah, I thought we were journalists.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a stretch. That's a stretch.
I would not dare label us that.
All right. No, I mean, okay lah, Everybody, I feel very sad lah. If you think that the bar is so low, I would like to think that, there are some professional standards and ethics that involves my profession.
As hallowed and as sacred as the profession is, right? Today's election and the whole consumption of media now,
Right.
it's trending more towards the consumption of podcasts and alternative media.
Exactly.
And we don't see much consumption of traditional media in forming an opinion of a candidate.
I have never got on to this idea, even when I was doing Middle Ground and Breakfast Network, that alternative media or podcast knowledge should be a counter to mainstream. I've never believed that.
Right.
Because I still see the need for media to be able to interrogate issues properly. But now I'm beginning to think, my goodness, maybe we do need two sides.
Yeah.
Because the mainstream media is going so one side and unable to interrogate that you have to have another point of view coming in. But you see, at the end of the day, who's gonna suffer? The readers, Because you see, mainstream media has the resources to interrogate.
Yeah.
The rest don't. I mean, when people tell me, what for I can read SCMP, listen to podcasts and all that.
Yeah.
Hey, hello, excuse me. You want to read SCMP? They're going to tell you what's happening next door. So, so you do need a handle on what is happening in your immediate backyard. And then, so I feel very, I don't know how you call it, furious or frustrated when certain questions just don't get interrogated far enough. I mean, this election, right? One of the things that really gets to me is when the PAP keeps launching its master plan. I can die. So, we have master plan after master plan, right? I think maybe they heard me because the last master plan, there was a figure, a dollar figure
Right.
on how much it costs. Okay. I said, okay, so 600, God knows how many million, and that's it. So, okay, never mind. I think you should be grateful for small mercies, right? So, I mean, you should ask a lot more, when the PAP says, my master plan, what are you doing for your residents? This is what I'm doing for my residents. And you got to interrogate them a bit harder, no?
Right.
Because what is your role in this master plan? Is this the LTA master plan? Is this the URA master plan put together? Sorry, didn't the HDB come up with this? And then, to take credit, I have planned this for you. I tell you, I am not sure. So basically, I see the poor two opposition parties, right? Master plan. Some people laugh at the Sengkang master plan because it is very small.
Yeah.
But why is it so small? It doesn't have infrastructural stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, one pond here, one don't know what
Butterfly
way here.
park.
Butterfly Park, I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to it.
So basically, the money is probably from the CIPC fund. It's not somewhere else. So I really want to know where the money comes from. That is something the media can legitimately ask.
Right.
It's not something people should scold you about, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if I go and I ask the MP, excuse me, your 600 over million, how much is from the state and how much is from town council funds and how much is from wherever?
Yeah.
It's a fair question. Yeah.
It's a fair question.
That nobody's
Yeah.
asking.
But why do you think media is not going into that then? Why are they not diving into this?
Maybe it doesn't occur to them, because you see, this is not the first time I've seen projects and stuff come without some basics. So, and then you shouldn't be talking about the journey, you should be talking about their bosses. How can their bosses let this through?
Do you think it could be due to it's simply not good content? Even if you ask the question, they probably feel like nobody cares, nobody reads that.
How can I read? Okay, okay, maybe we don't care.
Because you brought up two ends, right? So if we compare like media in America, where it's really two echo chambers, and as much as people are acknowledging this echo chamber now and say it's extremely partisan, they are also the one that gets the most views. And in Singapore, I think we were big fans of Dan and I, especially when we started our career, we do read the middle ground. And so we're fans of their publication because somewhat it feels balanced. And yet at the same time, do you feel like it's difficult to actually establish a strong readership for actually balanced content?
I think this is actually a gap in our system that is wide open for someone to take. I think people do want to see something more deeper. I wouldn't even dignify it by calling it investigative.
Yeah.
I think basically more questioning. But something like that, you need brains, that's one. Then secondly, you need resources. You need people who can go around and do these things.
How did the middle ground make money last time?
We didn't lah. That's why we closed.
Oh, so you didn't make $1, no donation page or whatnot?
Patreon, right? Like it was donors.
No, well, there was Patreon we had, and then we had some sponsors who gave us the money to start up. But after that, we just couldn't sustain it, couldn't pay.
Right.
I think the thing to remember is that you want talent, you don't pay peanuts, That's something people tend to forget. And the worst part is people think journalism is so easy. Yeah, you say low bar. No, low bar. Hey, hello. Low bar is lousy journalism.
Yep.
High bar is good journalism. I mean, to know everything about a lot of things in some way and to ask, right? That's high bar. And it's not, can't just throw someone in and they can do it. No.
Yeah.
But I think the problem is figuring out how to make it a sustainable business, I guess. Because I think like we look in the US, for example, a lot of newspapers now are being bought up by like billionaires, right? And then if we look at the viewership, the very partisan news gets more views than say C-SPAN or NPR.
Agree.
So then if the funding of it is so difficult, then how can we make it sustainable?
The thing is this, I think we are too small, first of all, right? To have big groups polarizing our tiny little country, right? And some more, our market is so small. So that's another thing. So there is some sense for the government to come in to build something that is overall more balanced.
Yeah.
The danger, of course, that is what I'm seeing now. You must get outside input as well. You know, I've always wondered why it was so much more transparent in the past.
Oh,
Of
Is it?
course, if you are a public listed company, you have to open your books.
Yeah.
What? So,
Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
So you have to open your books. You have to tell me, how your editors, what the payment, your operational costs, everything. Now I don't even know anything.
I see.
Yeah, as an NGO, it's different.
NGO.
Yeah.
Oh my God, is that what you call it?
Come on, what they ended
Trust.
up.
Public trust.
Public trust.
Yeah. I'm a bit flabbergasted. So you give them this money, and now it's even more opaque. And it's so weird, right? I mean, a public trust that answers to the MDDI rather than the public in some way. There are no articles of association, it's supposed to have. The big, promises about getting the public involved. Don't have lah.
If not for MDDI, who should have oversight?
No, I think there's only MDDI that can have oversight. But it does not mean that other people cannot be part of that group too. There must be money, right? Who can give out the money?
Yeah.
That is the problem, right? So if government gives out the money, then you can say government will protect the money, which is what they say. But you must remember that the government itself a big newsmaker, an interested party as well. So there's got to be some balancer to that lah.
Yeah. I think
I'm very angry that all the opposition parties none of them mention the media leh. Their manifestos are still the old ones about Freedom of Information Act. Please change NPPA. Alamak, a lot of times have changed lah.
Yeah.
You think it's because now they recognize that the media coverage is a little bit more open. They now are covering opposition a lot better, and now because they are at the mercy of media coverage, they are now more friendly to media.
I don't think so. I don't think they thought it through. You see, one of the ideas that people have is that people tell me, hey, madam, you are damn old-fashioned lah. Days of greater press freedom, who cares? Everything is cost of living. I say, my point is media covers everything. What you know about cost of living, where you think it came from? Only yourself, right? And maybe your friends, right? How do you know about what others think? Everything else, what do you know of anything except through the media.
Yeah.
So don't tell me that, I'm more worried about my cost of living. If I tell you every day, if I keep telling you your cost of living actually not that bad, then how do you believe that? You know, are you happy with just CPI? You understand it or not?
Yeah.
I tell you CPI gone up, gone down, and you understand that from a cost of living point of view. If the journalist doesn't go out and interview 1,000 people or whatever, you know. I mean, you look at GST, you know, twice raised. Both times, have you seen any follow-up stories on the impact? No, you know. But, you know, then suddenly we just have this idea, and it's not because of the media that we're all suffering from cost of living. Do you realize it's not something that the media pushed? So, you know, it just sort of came out. And then suddenly, what do we have? Assurance package, cost of living package all thrown. And do you interrogate those things? Do you say that, hello, this will go how far, how much, to who, is it going right, you know? Why isn't anybody saying anything about CDC vouchers?
Yeah.
Because it's so popular.
I love the concept of CDC vouchers,
I love the concept, but it has strayed away from its original objective.
which is to support local businesses.
Yes, the sellers on the ground, and the people who are very poor.
Yeah.
It's not for you to go and buy 1 month's worth of groceries.
Right.
It's for you to be able to afford one plate of noodles. No. You know, so in the beginning when people were grumbling, I said, are you mad? This is not for you if you think that, well, I can't even buy this.
Yeah.
Not for you. This is for the old lady who has to go and have a
Yeah.
breakfast.
You wish for it to be a little bit more targeted.
Yes, I do. And you know, and the crazy thing is now you have supermarkets, right? Half supermarket, half for other people. Right?
merchants.
Hey, what the hell? Okay, no. So why you bring the supermarkets on board? Okay, people are saying, oh, not enough to do this, not enough to do that. But so the trouble is the concept has gone from something very, very targeted to more and more popular. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. It's got more and more popular, so much so that people actually say not enough. You know. So I don't like this idea.
So it mutated into like universal basic income replacement.
Walao.
One
off.
No, you know, actually, I like to that thought. This mercantilist element that we have. This GE, I mean, I put on my FB. I thought it's getting a bit grubby.
We saw.
We saw that post.
Very grubby. And then, you know, because like somebody sent me, I also come here and get your $1 ticket, and then you get.
To be fair, this started months ago, like years ago.
Are you sure?
Maybe not as rampant. But yeah, there's always been community. Like last time in my old place in Punggol, like 2-3 years ago, they also have this sale. I forgot the dollar figure, but everything's $2. Like 2-3 years ago.
Well, okay lah. I mean, that's good for you, but you know, it's damn coincidental.
I mean, no lah. Now it seems lah. Now it seems. Yeah.
So now there's all this happening, and then the thing is this: the timing is such. You say, "Oh, we planned this a long time ago." So suddenly, them chona now lah, give out, and then you look at the flyer. Who is behind it? The PA, the CDC, the name of your ward, grassroots advisors. So if you look at it this way, so what project is this? Is this a nationwide thing among all CDC councils? I don't think the Aljunied and Hougang people in Sengkang got it. So, you know, they should, right? I mean, if it is a PA, CDC thing, why are you leaving them out? Because it's damn awkward, right? If you give them out, because you come from the grassroots advisor, right? And not the MP. So it's all getting a bit Luana. Topsy-turvy here. So I don't like this mercantilist element.
The issue with you is the conflict of interest or the commercial.
I don't know. I am a bit idealistic lah.
Okay.
You know, I really like the politics be clean. It makes me uncomfortable. You know, I mean, are you okay with paying $1 for so many things, and does this help you think about voting for someone? I don't know whether I want to even think that way. And I think those who believe that it will happen really think very little of citizens. I don't know whether right or wrong lah.
We had a POH that came on and then said, I know it's free, I'm taking for free, but I just want you to know that I'm not voting for you.
Yeah, and I think you tell me, is that even the right way to do it? No?
Yeah.
Sounds very amoral to me.
How are you?
You get me? Isn't it immoral? No?
So we spoke a little bit of the opposition. I just want to get back to that a bit about how they have switched over from, in your view, from more fiery rhetoric to policy-based rhetoric.
Yes.
You know, how do you envision this like playing out? How your prediction?
So the opposition is doing exactly what the PAP said that they should do. In the past, right, the PAP always said, you all got, you know, nobody who's smart. People smart. You got no idea. I give you idea.
All right.
So basically,
People give them an idea lah.
So they become, you know, matched lah. Right? But I think the opposition better not forget what is it that make them the opposition.
which is difference of ideas.
Not just difference of ideas, but the way in which they relate to people are also different.
Right.
You do want to make a difference in the way you speak to people, in the way you carry yourself. They are less fiery. Yesterday I was listening, I tried to catch as many speeches as possible. Right? I'm glad Pritam had fire.
Yeah.
I'm glad Harpreet had fire. I don't see much fire on the PAP side.
Right.
And so they sound the same playbook lah. I'm here to serve you.
Yeah.
And therefore, don't worry, I will do my best. Of course you'll do your best, right? I expect you to do it. So what are you going to do for me different? What are you going to do for me better? That's what you should tell me. So I thought, I've not been hearing that. And if I do hear that, it comes back to this, my constituency plan. Alamak. Then of course I come question mark. So I think opposition better not lose that bit, about being fiery and being able to identify, like Chan Chun Seng says, it's not about sloganeering. Well, you do need to fire.
He is the slogan
up,
guy though.
And I don't think your slogan's very great. So the thing is, hello, are you a politician or not?
Yeah.
In this kind of times, you need these kind of things. You're not somebody putting out a cabinet paper with nice long titles.
Were there any slogans that really caught your eye? Because I personally, I thought the SDP's one was very
Thrive,
good.
not survive.
Not just
Thrive,
survive.
not
I
survive.
thought that was great.
Yeah, but thrive a bit atas lah.
Yeah.
I quite like Jeremy's one also.
Be retired, not tired.
Yeah, not tired.
That's good. I hadn't heard that. That's good. We spoke about how quite a few one-term MPs, Prime Minister staying in a 4-man GRC, and some other ministers getting shuttled around. How do you interpret all of these moves? What's the broader picture here?
Yeah, because we saw that you had a Facebook post about unusual observations this GE.
Unusual observations. Oh, okay. I mean, I already said one. One was the business about one-term MPs.
Yep.
So that was one. The retirement is not unexpected, although I must say I was quite surprised with Heng Swee Keat.
You think that he was still kept, maybe possibly redeployed at the last moment? That's why they kept the news of him retiring?
Although I don't know whether it's a health thing as well. I was quite surprised. In fact, when I was there at the nomination centre, I shouted at him, "Hey, Mr. Heng, you better stick around. Don't give me a heart attack like 5 years ago." He's like,
Leave me, I'm retiring.
So I was a bit surprised at that, but then from what I gather, maybe I should not be surprised. So there might be other reasons which I think are perfectly legitimate.
So as a result of all of these moves and unusual or usual, we've actually gotten quite a few surprising battlegrounds this general election. One of which is Punggol GRC with
BM Gun versus Harpreet.
Yeah.
So who do you see having advantage over there?
Who has an advantage? Well, that's a bit susah. I mean, essentially, if you look at it, I suppose the WC sees Punggol as a bit like the replica of Sengkang in terms of profile, right?
Young families.
And also maybe got spillover effect kind of a thing,
Right.
to next door. I don't know about Gan Kim Yong coming over. Frankly, there was something he said yesterday that I totally look here and go, he was a last minute entrant and he goes there and he thanks the voters of Punggol for supporting him. And I was thinking, what are you talking about?
Right.
He's memorizing his Choa Chu Kang speech.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think quite a lot of them, sort of didn't have a capacity to switch.
Right. Yeah.
Although I think Tan See Leng switched quite masterfully.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very masterful. Yeah.
And he was very honest. He went out to ST and said, "Look, I was in the car.
Yeah,
I was actually all the way at the other
to
end of
Kong Hwa,
Singapore.
yeah.
And I actually made a last minute.
Yeah. So he was very good at that, I see Gan Kim Yong say, what are you talking about?
And then he did the
Oh, yeah.
But he's so cute.
I'm sorry lah. I really don't like all those hand stuff,
Oh dear.
Yeah, even I hate that. I hate that.
Another thing I noticed was the real matchup there is between Sun Xueling and
Alexis
the
Deng.
girls.
yeah,
The ladies,
yes, a little
That's where the
matchup
real-
there.
That is so chauvinistic. Come on lah. You see two women only you.
My female friends
only
were telling me that,
Boys
so.
who do that.
Didn't cross my mind.
Yep. I was thinking about Harpreet. Harpreet on my mind. No, but my female friends who pointed it out as well because there was people comparing their Mandarin, all of that.
Because we look at in the past the Nicosia effect. Plus, I think we've also seen Sun Xueling tends to gather the most number of volunteers sometimes. So there's some effect there, I guess. And the internet likes to talk.
You can't deny it is a thing.
With y'all lah.
No lah.
No, but actually, before you.
I am female and I really don't like this idea that
Okay.
a pretty woman against another pretty woman, or a pretty woman against a really ugly one, or and you just measuring it based on that and who's nicer, who's not. I would just say got brain or not. I mean, basically this one got more brains than the other one or not. That one's credibility is what? I would go with that. So I think the superficial comparison of candidates for our parliament is very, very sad.
I agree with you, and I just want to say I didn't say the Alexis part. What I was trying to say is that Shan Shilling is very popular on the ground because a lot of policies, and especially the shared parental leave, stuff like that is writes really well with the voters. And someone I saw made a comparison that Tin Pei Ling is truly the anchor for
Somebody
her GRC because of how popular, how good a ground game is.
I think there's a lot of acknowledgement that she's very good on the ground, but you do remember that last time she was up against Goh Meng Seng,
Yeah. But I mean, true, 70%.
70%. I don't deny she's supposed to be a very, very good MP. But I think also remember that she also had a few screw up. Remember?
Being on the board of
Grab and all that sort of thing, Actually, that's the other thing, when I talk about the business of being mercantilist, these associations, these commercial sort of things coming into our politics really doesn't make me happy.
Potential conflicts of interest. Something that we brought up, and something that you brought also was so Harpreet Singh, as well as like opposition not forgetting like why people root for them, right? And we talked about how maybe some candidates on WP side easily their resume 20 years ago, 30 years ago may have been like PAP candidates. I think we've said that of like James and like Harpreet. But what would you like to remind them so that they don't lose that
as I
opposition
said just
effect?
now, this idea about your relatability, why you're there, how to speak for people.
And do you think they've still managed to maintain that?
Some of it, I think you can see the way some of the opposition members were talking, like I said just now, Prita, Harpreet, they do seem to resonate a bit. They push a bit further.
Prita's speech was rousing. I'm surprised by PM Wong's speech as well. Never saw that side of him.
The shouting side of him.
He's shouting, he rally vibes. Quite heavily, I think.
He's usually quite chill. And
maybe we'll see it at the rally as well. I think it's like getting ready for rally. He's hyping himself up for that.
I just wish somebody writes his stuff for him.
You don't think he...
No, I just wish somebody writes his speeches and
for
him,
to deliver it lah.
The stuff that he utters, I can also do the same,
You Bertha Henson, why obviously you can do the same.
No, I mean,
what's missing?
Originality lah. And a lot of originality also means passion,
Yeah.
I cannot quite say we are sailing through turbulent waters with a straight face anymore. So can you say something different? And I don't think the media is doing him any favors either by repeating it. Sometimes I wonder what the media is up to, Sometimes
you got think to rejoin her.
Of course, they don't want me what?
So you had a conversation to rejoin
I didn't even
and
have a
re-whip
conversation.
the
I was
newsroom.
just told no.
Wow.
Another constituency I want to get your insight on is actually Tampines GRC.
Okay.
But I actually think that a lot of the focus on it is on the wrong matter. I don't think that it's the four-cornered fight that is a real talking point here. Because Tampines actually is one of the largest Malay communities in Singapore.
25%, I think.
Quite a large, substantial amount. And some of the streets are saying that it's actually looking like more of a referendum on Minister Masagos and his representation and advocacy for the Malay Muslim community. And here we have Workers' Party almost offering up like an alternative voice with a former MP, heavyweight basically, in Faisal Mana. How should we interpret this dynamic?
I'm a bit concerned about the matchup over there. I hope it's not going to be I am more Muslim than you kind of a matchup that's going to happen. I think Masagos made valiant, but I think still vain attempt, to try and shift it to municipal and Workers' Party, four corner here, that kind of thing. But I think everybody knows the subtext that's running through. So the question then is how the Muslim community will see it. And I don't just mean in Tampines, right? So if you say it's a referendum on his handling, well, it might well be. But then you have to ask yourself, these are some of the things a GRC concept is supposed to try and temper down, so you also have to think very hard. What are what the GRC teammates are up to, what the party thinks, right? How is going out to talk to the non-Malays, non-Muslims, So if there's any use that can be made out of the original rationale for GRCs, this is now.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm very sorry for Masagos. I mean, it's hard lah, and some of the things I see online also doesn't make me comfortable about wanting to take a hard and fast position on some things, which might not be easy to do for a country.
And he's been able to, or he's had to kind of toe the line, being able to be relatable but say what he needs to say.
Not even though, I mean, he's basically he's trying to keep his balance, like on it, make sure don't flip So it's very hard. I think it's so odd that now we don't even think about Marine Parade anymore. And then this other constituencies suddenly pops up as something to look at.
But as the minister in charge of Muslim affairs, it is his remit. It's valid to say that this is his job scope, and so people have to judge him on how he's performed on that. So is it still fair to...
I think basically if you think about his remit, that means as Muslim affairs minister, he also wears his other hat. Right? So Muslim affairs minister, I don't think any one of us can judge at all. So if that is a community thing, then I'm not even sure a general election is the right place.
Right.
You know, so that's another tangle. No, I always say we are experts at coming out with new experiments, and then they come back and they bite us.
It's true.
Every new thing we throw up, suddenly turns around.
What about your thoughts on PPP and SDA? You think they have a chance on recovering deposit?
I'm afraid I don't think of them at all.
Okay, sure. Okay, good. Ouch.
While we're on this topic, right? You've recently been saying a lot of... You've coined this term... You've coined the term mosquito parties.
I don't know how it took off.
It took a life of it. These things have a way.
It went bzz.
Everyone's just using it.
Why?
What defines a mosquito party?
What's right above the mosquito line?
No, I would just say the three big ones
So WP, SDP, and PSP.
Anything that is below
Mosquito.
swattable.
I see.
And how are you defining that? Is it by how long they've been around, their work, or is it their message? Because, for instance,
Everything.
NSP, you know.
Hello, NSP. I grew old with some of them, you know. As a rookie
As in literal
report.
friends.
Yeah, so they've been around.
Oh, I see.
Covering. Basically, I don't see you any other time of the year.
Other than once every 5 at the election
So
day.
suddenly, you know, like mosquito season, no.
Yeah.
You come
Dengue
out.
season lah. Yeah.
Suddenly, mosquito season come along, you come. And I don't see any concerted attempt to say, give any idea beyond the usual, we will help you lower cost of living. Everybody wants to take essentials out of GST. Okay. Everyone wants to lower this and lower that, and I'm like, alamak. You know, it reminds me of the days when I wasn't yet voting, so very young. So I hear my mom, my
So like a couple years ago lah.
When you have people say, PUB should be free. Electricity should be free. You think what? People listen?
Yeah. You think so?
They listen. That's why PAP was a one-party parliament for a long time.
But when parties try to separate themselves, like then they adopt dangerously, almost like sometimes xenophobia or anything along those lines. That's how they like, this is my unique selling point. Is I'm a raging racist. Like, is that what we...
No, then they have to convince you that they're not a raging racist.
Somehow I'm proud of it.
They are basically a true patriot. Hello, everything is a question of how you put it across, isn't it? Why are you calling me a racist? Don't you see that I'm being patriotic? How dare you? Are you against patriotism? You know, a lot of politics is just a question of how to flip it.
Spin.
How you want to spin it? You know?
You recently went on another podcast, Yalabat, and you listed a series of questions that voters should be asking their MPs. But by the time this episode comes out, right, we're going to be only a couple of days away from polling day. So if you're still undecided at this point, right, as a viewer of this episode, you don't have an idea which way to vote, what should they be looking out for to help them?
Well, they should go to the site www.JiaJia.com, and there's a whole series of comic strips there on for Superman. Basically, is your MP a Superman? What kind of superpowers do they have or do they not? And it culminates in a list of things that you should do homework for to check for your MP or ask your MP to fill out for you. So it will cover parliamentary work as well as municipal work.
Yeah.
So,
it's very cute. It's a very cute worksheet.
It's a worksheet lah. It's for you to do homework type.
Highly accessible to anyone.
Yeah, but you know, you have to take the time to go and dig the answers lah.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you mind sharing do you have a political bias?
In what way?
Do you, for example, have you made up your mind on who you're voting for?
No, I haven't. So
Okay.
yesterday I was like thoroughly surprised. First time I finally know who's going to contest in East Coast.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I'm like, I thought Heng Swee Keat, go off already. And then then I still couldn't find out who among the 5 was going to be in charge of my subdivision even. You know, of course they don't tell you, right, who's going to be in charge of what. And then the Workers' Party side, the only one I know, and that was from way back when, is Lee Zhen-Zhong. And you know, I've been quite sillily waiting at my hawker centre, hanging around, trying to catch them. And trying to tell people, if you see, call me all.
Yeah. Did you manage to or no? Or you
And in fact, I've gone to the point of telling the PAP and the opposition, if you're down there,
Yeah.
call me.
And no one.
Yeah. But it's today first day lah.
Okay. But to be fair, East Coast.
That last few days already I've done.
Okay.
Right.
To be fair, East Coast is one of those where it may have been unpredictable. They may not have known who they wanted to put until the last minute. So it may.
I mean, they had to bring Minister Edwin on the PAP side.
Yeah. He was so
Yeah.
cute. Yesterday I keep asking him, and what he did is he took my fan and started fanning himself. I was like, what?
Anything to not engage you in this cause, I'm scared of.
Umbrellas and fans and
Fans.
You know, this morning driving to work, right? I just saw Dr. Janil at the traffic light by himself. He's in full this badge stuff, white on white, and he's by himself. He's just waiting for the traffic light to pass. Then I'm like,
No entourage?
no entourage.
Where are they? What time was it?
8:30.
Oh.
I don't know. He's probably on the way to
Prime
meet the entourage.
breakfast.
Meeting point.
Yeah.
Going to
Hey,
But he
meeting
parked
point.
them far away lah, because he's crossing a major road.
But they work them fast. Like overnight, right? The posters all up already.
Yeah.
Everything is gone
None
up.
in
one
my side.
vendor lah,
Only
bro.
PAP on my side, by the way.
Oh.
So this is where the very stark, right? How like poor the resources are for some of the smaller parties. My side is Bukit Batok Jurong East. So Bukit Batok is no longer. My house, right, is next to the sign that says Bukit Batok SMC. That sign will
Which no
disappear.
longer-
Yeah, in 5 days it's gone, that sign. But
Still
yeah,
the sign.
yeah, I will. I want to. It's like after
Yeah.
F1, I always take all the speed boards. I should, right?
Should take.
Yeah. But yeah, they have no collateral up, nothing. I don't know who
There is a place in Singapore. So my friend also bought a street sign, put at house, because it's their old house address.
Oh,
Yeah. You gotta go in auction.
I gotta go in.
Mine, because mine's Sengkang, so hotly
Ooh,
contested.
hotly.
Both sides. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, WP, PAP. In fact, PAP one went up first.
I wonder whether the Punggol people have got Gan Kim Yong's face up yet.
That's right. They will have to redo the posters.
Ah.
I am the
They stick
Pongo
over.
people.
Oh yeah, you
you're
are.
Punggol.
It's the first time. This is my first time in my adult life where I actually don't know who's gonna win. Like I've always known.
Oh, you're
Yeah.
Pasir Ris Punggol before that?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's always. Oh no, I
Foregone
was in
conclusion.
Pongo SMC as well.
Sun Xueling.
Sun
okay,
Xueling's
okay,
board. So it was
okay.
it was rather clear. I could see how the sentiments were swaying. I think it's the first time in my adult life I'm looking at it and like,
Not sure.
I don't know after polling day which ward that would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's because there are too many people in
Yeah.
one GRC.
So we spoke about opposition policies, and the one that I want to talk to you about is about the opposition members who are pushing for asset declarations.
You know, this business about making politicians give their assets, I've been thinking about it, it's all connected to what I said about this mercantilist thing.
Yeah.
Well, basically, right now, they have to declare their directorships and all that to the Prime Minister only. Well, I'm not so sure about assets, because frankly to me, whatever you've accumulated before you became a politician is yours.
Yeah.
Not none of our business. But basically what is the problem is the now, how they can be misused. There is some merit in making the declarations public for these sort of things. I don't know why not, because you can actually, you want to check it up yourself. So what's wrong in making it easier for citizens? So that's one thing. The other thing I hope the new Prime Minister will do is take a look at two important pieces of document: the Ministerial Code of Conduct and the Rules of Prudence for MPs. Does he want to do more with them, tighten them up a bit so that we are clear on what is actual or perceived conflict of interest, how he expects MPs to behave, or at least his PAP MPs to behave, because opposition will have their own. What is the standard of conduct for ministers? I think he should give it a dusting, especially after Ride Out Road and
The
Iswaran, that kind. He should give it a dusting and say these are now the new lines I want to draw.
But politically, how does that help him? Does that not just give him more exposure?
Oh no, I think that I'm a very conservative person. So basically, if he does this and he's holding the line, I would say hooray.
Good job lah. Okay.
Because I still think the old ethos of Lee Kuan Yew about being more frugal, or at least giving the perception that you're not flaunting everything you have lah.
Yep.
I think that's still pretty good, and it will still hold true for generations to come. Yeah. There's one other thing that Parliament might think of doing. I think the Workers' Party in its manifesto had talked about some kind of parliamentary committee for cost of living. I mean, that's a good idea, but I think beyond looking at it in that way, we should look at the committees we already have. I mean, we have the Estimates Committee, the Public Accounts Committee, Special Select Committee to pick nominated MPs. There are another 3 more. I don't think we know anything about what they do. I mean, we only look at their final reports, right? I don't think people know the difference between an Estimates Committee and a Public Accounts Committee because they sort of mirror Auditor General and Accountant General. We don't even know how the Special Select Committee picks its NMPs. I think there is if Parliament itself can be a little more transparent about the work, that will go very far to transparency. I mean, I want to know how many times the Estimates Committee meet, I think it probably says it in the book lah. But when it does meet, make some noise lah.
Right.
You know, and, you know, when you go out and you check something, say something. You know, and you put out the estimates committee booklet, chair a press conference. I mean, things like that will at least show us your work, no? Yeah. I don't think this whole business about closed door and doing work in the background is going to work anymore. People want to see you at work too.
Right.
So, you know, so rather than start thinking of new ideas, new committees or new task force or whatever, you might just want to look at what we have now and what we can do to improve them.
It's quite ironic since I think a common complaint is that, no, Parliament is always empty. I see this broadcast is, most of the seats are empty. So this kind of transparency would actually go a lot in showing the behind the scenes work and be like, actually we are working lah. It's just,
And I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting work. Yeah.
I don't recall which interview, but someone did ask Lee Kuan Yew, is media the fifth or the sixth estate? And then of which he says no. To an extent, or rather looking in hindsight, right, it could be possible that the fact that Singapore's mainstream media always played along with the government narrative managed to keep Singapore united thus far. Do you think right now, as alternative media exists and getting more and more mindshare, right? Singapore's going to lose that edge in keeping the people united, less divisive, albeit having more knowledge.
The not united part, but I tell you what, I think we're just going to be stupider and stupider if we let the media just go on this merry way, because basically we'll just be reading what people want us to read and then the other side telling us that this is not the case. You know, rather than having the full slate of information for us to chew on, we'll all just be looking at headlines and suddenly wondering, hey, how come this is happening? You know, as though, even though it's been said to you for ages, you know. So I think I'm just worried we've become a more stupid and stupid people.
So not America's form of journalism either.
I never thought an American form of journalism was that hot. I mean, no, essentially, I like the fact that, you see, when you stay a long time, you are in a position to give insights. That is the good thing about being in journalism for a long time. You know, institutional memory, you remember, you can recall, and it informs your writing. You know, when you see something clicks, you know. So, you know, so I do wish journalists would stay on, because that's the value you get from them. No matter how smart you are, if you are still young, you won't get that. So the Americans, most of them have that. They can, even though they may have a bias or whatever, they do have that memory level to draw on. I frankly don't see much way lah. I think podcasts and all that will have a life of its own, will take off in a big way. I also hope that, you know, it's not just a question of getting views, because one of the things that media should do is also explanatory journalism, which is explaining things, not necessarily explaining a government point of view. Or you can explain the government point of view. It's perfectly all right, because if the policy is there, this is what it says, and this is why, how. You can say, and you can say, maybe it could be better lah, or wrong, you know. So there must be an info element, explanatory element. Although podcasts will merely be in the realm of comment. And you know, comment is free.
But I think this is a perennial problem, right? Because we've seen this before podcasts, before online media. There was broadsheets and there were tabloids, and tabloids existed for a reason. It was dirty media, but it was sensational news because people wanted.
It was sensational news that let people read first of all, and then go into the serious stuff. I know. I was in the newspaper.
No, sure, but like the newspaper, you can't compare to, like, say, the Sun of like the UK.
Who is talking about Western media?
Broadsheets and tabloids. So then, like, it just goes back to your point about, like, it's hopefully not about views, but I guess the considerations that new media has to play today is that we need to be commercially viable so that we can exist, so that we can produce informative content. But it's the sensational content that sometimes draw the views so that we can be commercially viable. So then, is the issue the media players, or is it the audience that actually wants certain things?
The audience, you give them sex and sports, they will love it lah. But then you know, the thing is, can you make news interesting and exciting? You know, sometimes when people tell me, this is so boring leh, I say, you know why it's boring? Because you are boring. You have no idea how to make it more interesting. You know, that's why sometimes I see, you know, the poor minister speeches, walao eh. You know, and then look at it, alamak, if I rewrote it like this, you get people reading. Don't look at it as being sensational. Just look at it being bloody readable and comprehensible. And sometimes that is good enough to draw people in. So don't need to look at that level. You know, the new paper under Baoji, it was quite an amazing thing. Yeah, because, you know, we did this, what we call the angle shoot. Just basically pick just one small point and then start with that to go bigger.
Right.
Just one small point. But it must be a damn good point.
Yeah.
Interesting point.
Right.
Then you move from there and then you go bigger. So basically, the hook.
But it's like you say, okay, coming full circle, like you mentioned, there is a gap in the market right now, that informative content. And I guess the challenge is for media owners to actually be able to tell informative content in an interesting way that can still hook viewers in the same way sensational.
Yes, and get money. I know the money part is very hard. That's why I don't want to do this business anymore. Yeah. Sometimes it's very demoralizing, I'm sure. You know, sometimes you are working for a certain cause and people don't identify with it. You want to put money in it, and you know. So it can be very demoralizing. So I really wish you all luck. Wish you all the good that you can have. Really.
Thank you.
Yeah, because we need that, you know. I always say journalism about three things: news, views, and news you can use.
Ooh,
Yeah, it's only three.
That'll catch on.
That's what journalists should do. So, you know, if you can do views, you think about doing news. And then news you can use is basically how to help your reader, your viewer, live their lives.
Yeah.
So it's like telling them, right, you know, when you go and vote, this is what you have to do. You know, these are just news you can use.
Yeah.
You know, but do it interestingly lah. Don't do it boringly.
That was how we started actually. When this show started, what we did was we get thought leaders from various fields. Because learn with us, we're very stupid, right? So we bring in doctors, we bring religious leaders, we brought in our cardinal, we brought ministers to share what happens when you become a minister. And then things escalated, got a bit serious, right? And then clearly we cannot be knowledgeable in all domains, because then reminded us a few weeks ago. Because I forgot what the episode was about, but it was based on a medical study on blah 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 on the nutrients of sperm. So we just thought,
my God.
I don't want to be
views,
Very lowbrow.
Thank you so much for watching.
Very lowbrow.
news you can use.
Okay.
Widely available.
By the time this episode is out, and dear viewer, you're watching this one, it's going to be one day to cooling off days. And if there's one thing that you want to urge our listeners and our viewers to pay closer attention to in this general election, not just as voters but also as citizens, what would that be?
Think harder about what you want your MP to represent. What is that vote? What is the significance of your vote? What does your vote say about you? Is your vote for what reason? Why are you voting? You know, I'm putting it very vaguely, but you know, I don't think we should just go into the booth blind and just okay lah. You know, that we must have done some deep thinking that I want my MP to do this. I'm picking this slate because I don't want that slate because this is how I want my country to be, and these people will do this. No, you need to make that kind of calculations. It's hard, you know, but we have to make an attempt, you know, especially as I said, new era already.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bertha. We really appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.
I was like so amazed at how interested people were about the umbrella hunt.
Sorry, what's the umbrella hunt? I missed it.
You know, she went to collect all umbrellas from all the parties. Oh, okay. The BB didn't give you one, right?
No, the thing is this. You see, I walked through and the Workers' Party people some sort recognized me. Okay, bye. Hey, come take one umbrella. I said, don't want. I don't want to be seen carrying your umbrella.
Yeah.
Take. So I was there with another friend. So I said, oh, Mak, I'm going to be seen with a Workers' Party umbrella. I better go and find a piece. I'm serious, okay? Okay, then I was telling my friend, hey, come lah, let's go and see how we take video for fun and see how. So we went circulating around the place. Then we saw these two guys standing there. Wow, so many umbrellas. So we went there and asked lah.
Can I have?
Yeah. And then I keep showing. No, I have the.
No wonder you tell us don't call you auntie. Why would someone call you auntie?
Why did you say that?
Okay, I get it.